Hey everyone, this is Heidi Gusted with another knitting video tutorial. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to get a super chic, chunky look from your knitting without having to learn arm knitting. So this blanket in front of me was made using size 50 US needles, and it was knit in 3 separate panels. So this center section is just stockinette stitch, and the 2 side panels are garter stitch, and then I seamed them using the mattress stitch. And so you can see how lovely and chunky and big this blanket is. It's one of my favorite things to have around the house because it's warm. It's my dog's favorite blanket, and because the yarn it's made with is 100% polyester, it's machine washable. So let's get started and I'll show you how to make something like this for yourself. So if you look at these needles here, you'll notice that they're approximately the size of my forearm, and they're also pretty big around. So these knitting needles are size US 35, aka 19 millimeters in metric sizing. And I really enjoy changing up my knitting routine by working on super bulky needles. A lot of people are into arm knitting these days, but this is a good alternative if you're already a knitter wanting to get that chunky look in a finished project. So on the needle here, I have like 9 stitches cast on these ginormous honking knitting needles. And so the thing is, yarn can be really expensive or hard to find. My biggest recommendation for working on super bulky needles is to double up your yarn. One of my favorite yarns to do the doubling up with is Bernat Blanket. I'd use 2 strands of this, or I just get 2 of these big skeins of this yarn and double them up like I've done here. Otherwise, this yarn normally calls for like an 11 or 12 US needle, but when you double it up, you get twice the thickness, and then your yarn gets a lot more chunky and you get that super thick, trendy look. So let me knit on these needles for just a minute to show you kind of the idiosyncrasies involved in working on these big needles. So you can knit just like normal, but everything is a lot bigger. So these needles are approximately the size of my hands, even just my finger span like this. So I find that I need to stretch to warm up before I work on a super bulky project like this. And I also want to make sure not to knit for too many hours at a time to avoid straining my hands and getting something like carpal tunnel or tendonitis. So just like with any doubled up knitting project, make sure that you work both loops together without dropping one of the working yarns or only working through one of the loops. And then another thing is, if you're looking for that super bulky look, be careful not to knit too tightly, because the looser you knit, the more open and chunky the finished project will be. So let me finish this row and we can look at what these stitches look like. 2 more stitches. All right, so I'm going to pull this down, and yeah, look at how thick. This is just garter stitch right here, but you can see how thick these stitches are. Each stitch is a little bit bigger than my thumb. And so if you work this in wide strips, you can seam them together to make a super bulky blanket, or you can make it into a super quick and chunky cowl or scarf. I hope you enjoyed this chunky knitting video tutorial. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave us a comment, and tune in again soon for another knitting video tutorial. I'm gonna go take a nap.